right? There are 12 postures in Surya Namaskara. So the first one is simple, right? So I will go back and kind of demonstrate you. So you guys can just watch and just follow me. Get to the middle of your mat. All right. So the first one is simple, right? This is a Namaskarasana or Pranamasana, or just, this is just Namaskar. It's nothing. It's basically Thadasana, straight posture, and you start with exhale. So this one, I think everybody should be able to do that, right? So this is number one. So number two, I think you should be able to do it even if you have injuries or anything, right? So here you are just lifting your arms up and then looking up. Now, your arm can be just kind of straight and then you look up, right? This is what most of the yogis will teach you in the Surya Namaskara. But if you are really advanced and you want to go a little bit more, you can always start to go a little bit more back. Now, your arms and your head should be moving together. So it should not be head going back and arms to the front. The arms and head going back and back and back like that. But you don't have to do this necessarily. You can just keep your arms and ear together and then you're looking up, right? And this is with an inhale. So that's the second part of your Surya Namaskar. Now, depending upon your lower back, if you have issues with lower back, I would highly recommend actually going back rather than keeping your arms up, right? So this might, if you have tight shoulders, like right now I have really tight shoulders, you may want to go a little bit easy. You can just keep your arms up and then go into the next one. But if you don't have any tight shoulders and your shoulders feeling okay, then you can stay here a little bit longer. Now, this is the second, and I don't think there's a lot of variations on this. You need to do it in your Surya Namaskar. Now, here is a variation which comes in is Padahastasana. Padahastasana, the first Padahastasana in the Surya Namaskar, when you start doing, right? The first one can be really, really challenging. So I highly recommend it when you go, bend your knees and then try to go. And when you bend it, make sure you're using your core strength and keeping your arms with the ear as you're going down. Arms with the ear and slowly go down. Some of the people can touch the floor, some may not. So it's fine. Wherever you are, try to keep your knee bending so that you are creating the nice stretching on the lower back, right? That's the focus and compression on the front side of the body. Now, if you are able to keep your fingers on the floor, then you can press it against the floor and try to walk your hips with your knees, moving your knees and try to walk your hips to open up your lower spine. So Padahastasana is basically pretty much trying to grab your feet with your hands, right? Like that's a literal sense. But in Surya Namaskara, we don't necessarily have to touch the feet or anything, right? We just have to keep over here, keep your shoulders relaxed, as relaxed as possible, keeping your knee bent, you can stay over here. I feel that this posture might be a little challenging, but again, depending upon your knee issues or lower back issues or shoulder issues, this should not create any barrier. You can still go into that posture. Now, from here onwards, I think you need to become a little bit more careful. So this is the third posture, Padahastasana. Now, the next posture which is coming in is called as horse riding. Ashwa Swasasana, right? So Sanchalasana. Ashwa Sanchalasana is basically, Ashwa is horse and Sanchalasana is basically riding. So the horse riding one, this might be too much on your knees. Now the leg which we usually take back is the left leg. Now if you have issues with your right knee, then there might be a little bit pressure as you release that left leg, because now the body weight is going into your right leg, right? So here you may want to just try to not lift your legs up all the way. You can actually get your legs back slowly, a little bit back, right? So here you need to make some changes just so that you're not creating too much tension on the right knee. So this is where I feel things go a little bit wrong and maybe creating issues on you. Then you put your body weight on your arms, right? And then you look up. Look up. This is Ashwa Sanchalasana. And this transition from Padahastasana to Ashwa Sanchalasana is where you need to start focusing on, right? So Padahastasana, and from here you need to be careful as you go back. And you can be slow. Put your body weight on the arms and then you keep your left leg back. And if you're not able to keep your left leg back like this, you can always get your knee down. So I will be on the sideways for you. So one way is to go this, right? And then you look up. Another way is basically just, sliding your legs. And then you can actually keep your knee down. That's fine too. So this is another variation. If you have any hip issues, there is a tension on the hips, you can keep the left knee on the floor, right knee is bent, and then you will look up like this, right? Ideally, what you want to do is you want to get all the leg back, you're on the toe, looking up. Okay. After doing Ashwa Sanchalasana, so this one is the fourth posture, right? So what is happening? You are stretching on the left side of the body and compression on the right side of the body. Then you have to use your arm strength to actually get the right leg back. Okay, right leg back over here. So now I will pause over here, right? So we got to 4 postures. Let me go into those 4 postures. So number 1, Namaskar, looking up, going down. Be careful how you go down, and then Ashwasanchalasana, right? Ashwasanchalasana is basically this. Now, once you go over into Ashwasanchalasana, that's the 4th posture. There are 2 postures you can do. Okay, so the 2 postures are you guys able to see me? Okay, or should I go back? Thumbs up. Okay. I will go a little bit back so that you can see. So after
we can see you.
There are 2 postures you can do. One is called as Parvatasana, and another one is called as Adho Mukha Swashasana. So Adho Mukha means you're looking down, Adho, and then downward dog. Swasana means dog, the downward dog. So mostly what we do is downward dog. So there is a difference between downward dog and Parvatasana. So I will go back into Ashwasanchalasana. So this one is a lunge, the front lunge, and then most of the yogis will teach you Parvatasana instead of Adho Mukha, but I think Adho Mukha is better. So Parvatasana, what we do is we keep our feet together, right, like this, and then your arms and your ears are aligned, and then you open up your body. This one is called Parvatasana. So feet together, your ears and your arms are together, and then you stay over here like this. From here, you can go into the next one, which is the plank. But this is Parvatasana, right? We don't do Parvatasana in our class, but this is a variation you can try in your practice. Getting into Parvatasana from the horse riding posture. So horse riding and Parvatasana. So that's it. Now, Adho Mukhasana will be different. In Adho Mukhasana, what you do is you actually get your leg back, right, and open up your feet. That's the biggest difference. And the feet has to be opened up, the hip width distance, the distance of your hips, right? So this is the place you want. Now, some of you can get your feet closer like this, some may not. Those guys can keep your knee bent. That's absolutely fine, because you can slowly. What is going to happen is your heels might be up. You can be on the toes. That's fine. The folks who can get the heels down, then they can go into the next step, which is basically you're still not the dog, right? For the dog, what you need to do is you need to move your head away from the arms. That is, your ears and your arms are a little bit separated away, and then you create that compression, that stretching on the upper part of the spine. Okay, so Parvatasana, arms and ears together. Adho Mukha Swasasana, you are actually trying to look down or more, trying to create that compression and stretching on your body by getting the head down towards the floor. Okay. So when you do Surya
Anand, could you do?
So I want to kind of give a little bit of demonstration on how the downward dog versus the Parvatasana, which is the mountain pose. So there are like 2 alternatives. So make sure that you have the good understanding of the difference between those. Any questions so far? Yes, Mukil?
Could you, when you said in the second variation, you said that we need to keep our hands and the shoulder away from the ears. How do we?
The ears, this part, right? So
right.
This one is basically, so maybe I will not go into the posture. So this is Parvatasana. In Parvatasana, right, your ears and your arms are together. In down dog, you move it down. So down means your head is going down. That's what it is. So it's going down. In Parvatasana, you're a little bit looking forward. In down dog, you look down. You get your head down, and then the ears go down like that. You see my point? It's a subtle difference. Subtle difference. What happens is when your head goes down, the upper part of the spine stretches nicely. So when we do our Surya Namaskara, we focus more on the downward dog, right? We don't focus on the Parvatasana. But I am giving you this reference because once you start your practice, you can start doing Parvatasana along with it. So one time you can do Parvatasana. When coming back, you can do downward dog, or going into then you can do downward dog, something along those lines, right? So you can alternate it. And the transition is very important, right? So you are in horse riding posture or lunge posture. From there, how you transition using your arm strength. Because what happens is most of you who have knee issues, like Ketan, you have, Ashish, you are going through that. So for you, moving out from that horse riding posture into downward dog or into the Parvatasana will be critical for you, especially when you're repeating it, right? You will not know when you do it slowly, but when you do, like say 20, 30, then you will see that, eventually you are putting too much pressure on one knee in a wrong way. So be a little bit careful as you transition from there. All right. So I will go back again into the horse riding posture and then get into the downward dog, right? So we'll do downward dog first when you're going into it. This is the posture number 4. Posture number 5 is a downward dog, right? So this in downward dog, eventually, one day you can actually bend your arms a little bit. You can get into this posture as well. But we are not doing in Surya Namaskara that would be separate. But trying to open up the upper part of the spine, right? Once you are in downward dog, then the plank comes in. Okay, in plank, depending upon your, strength of the arm. So this is where you build the strength of your arms, right? Adho Mukha Swasasana, downward dog actually is going to build up a little bit, and then in plank, you basically try to put your body weight on the both arms, and then you can stay over here as long as you want when you're doing it at home, the slow practice, right? So no questions on this one, right? The plank is very, very popular postures outside of yoga as well. So from here, then you bend down for doing the Ashtanga Namaskara. Now, going into Ashtanga Namaskara, I want to give you some alternatives, how you go into this one, right? So plank, some people can stay here longer, but others can just go from plank. Now, if you are starting to build the strength of your arms, you may not be able to stay here longer. What you can do is you can put your knees down. Absolutely fine. So this can be the plank for you, right? So slowly you can build the strength. Putting the knee down, you can then go into Ashtanga Namaskar, right? Chin. So get your knee down first. Actually, in many of the Surya Namaskar practice, from plank they ask you to put the knee down first, and then you put your chin, then you put your chest, and then you look forward. So you see over here how there is a curvature on your hip, lower spine, and then you're looking forward, the hip goes up. So that's how. So this is plank. Put your knee down, chin, and then chest, and then you create a little bit of. It's a different kind of compression you will feel on your upper spine. Okay. So how we were doing it earlier, when you do it in the flow, then you go into plank, then you go down, and then you look up, right, like that. That is one way. But when you do it, when you want to do Ashtanga Namaskara, the right way is Ashtanga Namaskara, you can actually get the knee down first, get your chin and then chest. So this Ashtanga Namaskara is the right way. So that Namaskar, once you get here, then you can go into the Bhujangasana. And I will give you the variations of Bhujangasana as well. So does that make sense? Any questions on this one? Ashtanga Namaskar, how to do it? Ashtanga Namaskar.
Anand, in this one, whichever posture you go, your tummy never touches the floor?
No, it doesn't actually.
Okay.
It doesn't. But you know what? When you do the flow, like when you do 108 Surya Namaskara and all, there are few things would happen. That's fine. But if you do the slow one, Ashtanga Namaskar, the chin, right, the chest, and the knees are touching, and then give that curvature. That's the Ashtanga. That's the traditional Ashtanga Namaskar. When you Namaskar your Guru and all, that is a traditional way of doing it. So the tummy doesn't touch. Actually, you know what? There is another variation. If you're really into flow, right, you can go into Bhujangasana and from plank to Bhujangasana pretty quickly. You don't even touch the floor at all. So this is the plank. Then you go down, and then you look up, and then you go into this, right? So that is like a swift flow, right? Plank, go down, not even touching, right? This is not Ashtanga Namaskara, but then you can go into this, and then you can use your arms and get into Bhujangasana, and then go back into downward dog or Parvatasana, and then come back up. So that is one more variation. But when you are practicing from now onwards, right, since we are not in challenge, I suggest you do Surya Namaskara slowly. So maybe 2-3 Surya Namaskara. You don't have to do a lot, 3 to 5 every day, right? So do it really slowly. Try to kind of feel each and every position and try to go a little bit more technical. And once a week, go into that 20 or 30. Honestly, 108 Surya Namaskara is really, really advanced. 108 Surya Namaskara is not normal. It should be only done when you're trying to build your muscles like Pahalwans and, trying to do some sort of demonstration and things like that. So you don't have to do that many Surya Namaskar. I rather prefer you do less. Yeah, but yeah, Boli.
Yeah, one thing. So do you have to always keep your knee when you are in that flat position, or you can keep the knee also up? I mean, it need not touch the ground.
Variations, right? If you're doing the slow one, you have to touch your knee for the Ashtanga Namaskar we're talking, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you have to touch your knee down. That's what I showed. So the best way to do it, if you really want to have nice curvature on the upper spine, is to get your knee down first, right? So if you want, you guys can do it. Go into plank. Go into the plank position first, right? And you will feel it like that stretching happening. Now put your knee down. So when you put the knee down, it's just like a tabletop, right? And then try to bend down and try to put your chin first and look forward, chin first, and then let your chest collapse down. You can actually put your elbows down as well at this point. So that is Ashtanga Namaskar. Right? And from here, then you press yourself up for the Bhujangasana. Did you got it?
Yeah. No, in that fast mode, I was practically not keeping anything on the chest or on the ground. So I was just doing it in a, maybe that is not right, that means. So
no, that's fine. That doesn't go into the complete Ashtanga Namaskara. There are some connections of the body which is preferred in Ashtanga Namaskara, but that's okay. I told you that variation, right? You don't do Ashtanga, you basically go down, you don't even touch, then you go and come back out. That's fine too. If you're doing a lot of Surya Namaskara, if you're in a flow, like we're doing 30, 40, 50, 100, right? Then you don't do all those things. You don't get into too much technicality. Yes, Pankaj.
Can you demonstrate once again after touching your chin and chest? How did you come up with the hand?
Yeah. So I didn't go into that one yet. I just wanted to, but yeah, that is Bhujangasana, and I will tell you two variations. One is Bhujangasana, and other is upward dog. Right? There are two variations you can do. Okay. So plank, right? Knee down, chin, chest. Okay. So this is chin and chest and knee, right? So from here, what happens is you put your body weight on the arms a little bit, and then what happens? Legs go a little bit straighten up. Try to straighten up your legs. Okay. So what is happening when you're over here? The legs are the knees bend, right? Then you try to straighten up your knees, push your legs back, and then you look up. This is called as a Bhujangasana. In Bhujangasana, what is happening is your legs remains on the floor. Legs remains on the floor. So Ashtanga Namaskar, push your legs back and then lift your chest up. Okay. Does that help, Pankaj?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is called Bhujangasana. Okay. Bhujangasana is what we want to do. So I will spend some time in Bhujangasana. There is another way to do this that is called as Udharva Swasana. Basically, what is happening is here you don't put your legs on the floor, you keep the toes on the floor and then you lift up. So see, my legs are not touching the floor, only toes touching the floor, and then I'm looking up. So this is the opposite of downward dog. So you can actually keep your arms also straight. So legs are up, knees not touching, toes is on the floor, and then you're looking up. So you can go to Ashtanga Namaskar, and from here you lift your knees up and then come up. So this one is called as an upward dog. Okay. The other way is the Bhujangasana, cobra posture, is keeping your legs on the floor and then looking up. But I would prefer Bhujangasana instead of the upward dog when you're doing the flow. So the variations I am telling you is each of the variations have its own benefits, right? So when you're doing a slow Surya Namaskara, you can alternate some of the postures. And I will send a video, or I will send some, for reference purposes, I will send something later on for you guys. But I wanted to give the alternatives because depending upon your body condition and what you want to achieve, you can alternate some postures within Surya Namaskara. And if you do Surya Namaskara, you're done for the day for yoga, right? You don't have to do anything else. Okay, we'll continue. Okay, so we got to the plank, we get into Ashtanga Namaskar, and then we do Bhujangasana. You Bhujangasana, or then you can do this is the upward dog. Okay, and then you come back into down dog. Now down dog, move your ears away from the arms, right? Or you can do Parvatasana. Keep your feet together, arms and your ears together, and then you look a little bit forward. You're not looking downward, right? In downward dog, you open up your legs and then get your head down a little bit more. This is the downward dog. And from the downward dog, now again, there is a transition. You're going into the horse riding posture, right? So for horse riding, the leg which went back, the same leg has to come forward. Now, at this point, you can actually use your toes to push yourself forward. Be careful because you're going to put a little bit pressure on the knee, right? So left leg forward, and then you can slowly lift yourself up into the lunge, the horse riding posture, right? And from here, this is where it becomes tricky because now your left knee is going to be working out too much. Be careful as you come. You can actually bend your knees and slowly come forward. All right, my left knee is a little bit having edge, so I got to be careful. The other way to do it is basically come with the flow. You know, immediately come with the flow using your stomach muscle. If you come slowly, also then it will put a lot of pressure. So when I do a flow, I just come quickly. I'm using my core strength so that I'm not putting too much pressure on the left knee for a long time. So this one is the horse riding. I come quickly so that I'm not putting too much pressure on my left knee. So for those guys who are having knee issues, coming back slowly actually is going to create more pressure than actually coming quickly. And the quickly would happen when you start to build your core strength. Right? From here, I'm using my core strength. Actually, what happens is from here, I can start getting the knee already unlocked. So this is the knee is unlocked right now when you do the horse riding, right? Then I try to lock the knees even before. So that way I'm not putting too much pressure with the bend knee. And then I push my leg forward. See the difference? I don't know whether you can see. So this is the horse riding, right? And I want to come out of it. So what I do is I try to lock the knee first, right? And then I press that leg back and come. For this to do, you need to have opened up hip, but then it helps me to relieve the pressure of the knee. Okay, because if you come back like this, what's going to happen is you're going to put too much pressure on the knee, and then that knee is going to hurt, right? So what you do is you basically lock the knee, push the legs, come forward, then that knee doesn't take too much pressure. Then go back to Padahastasana, and then you come back out into the looking up, and then do a namaskar. You see that subtle change on how to not put pressure on the knee? Any question on that? Okay, so we will practice it. It's 9:34. We'll practice 2 more Surya Namaskar slowly, okay? And then we'll go into some floor postures today. And then I want to keep some time for plans for the 31st, okay? So let's do Surya Namaskar. Let everybody come to the top of the mat. Try to be on the top of the mat because your legs are going to go back. So try to have some space at the back of the room when you do the Surya Namaskar, right? Okay, focus on the breathing as well. Namaskar, you exhale. Inhale, arms up. You look up. Now, go slowly, bend your knees and then exhale. Keep your arms and ear together. Go slowly over here. As you practice more and more, this will become easier and easier, believe me. This is more of a practice. So once you're over here, you can always move your knees just to open up your lower back. Okay, pressing your fingers against the floor. Now we'll do the first horse riding. So be careful. You can keep the left leg back. Right knee, you don't have to bend too much if you have knee issues. Okay, put the leg back and then bend your right knee. So you're going back first and then bend your right knee and then look up. That's the horse riding posture. Ashtasancharasana. Okay, and now we will go into down dog. Okay, right leg back. Put your palm pressure. So you can open up your feet for that down dog. All right, and move your head down. Okay, don't keep your ears with the arms. Move your head down. You can pause here for a few seconds. It's a great one to relieve the tension of your body. Down dog, you can do it at any time. especially the folks who have tight body, you can do down dog to open it up before running, before doing gym and things like that. Once you get into down dog, you can go into plank, putting the body weight on the arms. Try to count here, maybe 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, however long you want to build the core strength. It's a great posture to build your arm strength. If you can start building the arm strength, the more longer you stay, slowly you can work on your inversion postures. We will do some sessions on inversion later on, but you need to start building up the strength of the arms before you do the inversion postures, right? Now, bend the knee, try to touch the knee, get into tabletop first, try to touch your knee on the floor. Now try to touch your chin on the floor, chest on the floor to do Ashtanga Namaskar. Right? Now you will do Bhujangasana. Lift your chest up, pushing your legs against the floor. Lift your chest up and then look up. Okay, there is a compression on the lower back when you do that. Now from here, you can come back to tabletop. You can come back to tabletop and then go into Parvatasana or downward dog. Right? Easier way so that you don't put too much pressure. Or you can quickly go into downward dog. So be careful with your movements. So once you're in downward dog, we'll do again the horse riding. Again, left leg forward. At this point, you don't put too much pressure on the knee. So that this is good. So going into the horse riding while coming back is good. Now from here to Padahastasana is a tricky one. So I will try to get my knee locked, press my leg forward and then come forward to do Padahastasana. And then inhale, breathing. I lift myself up, look up and exhale, breathing. Namaskar. So let's go as a flow now. Ready? Exhale, breathing. Inhale, breathing, arms up. Exhale, breathing, go down, Padahastasana. Get ready for horse riding. Left leg back. Look up with inhale, breathing. Now right leg will go back into down dog. Get into down dog. Once you're in the down dog, get ready to get into the plank posture. So plank posture, look forward. In plank, we look forward, okay? You don't look down too much, you look forward. And then try to stay here for a few seconds. Whenever you're done, bend your knee, touch the knee on the floor, bend it, chin and chest on the floor. And this will be your Ashtanga Namaskar. Use your body strength, leg strength to lift yourself up for Bhujangasana. And now go into tabletop and then get into down dog back again. Stay here for a few seconds. Press your palms, your feet against the floor, equal distribution of the pressure of your palms and your feet, and then left leg forward, getting into horse ride again, looking up with an inhale. And now I will try to get my left knee locked and then push and get into Padahastasana. Inhale, breathing. I will go up, exhale, breathing. Namaskar. Okay, so that was Surya Namaskara for day. Anybody has any final questions on the sequence of Surya Namaskar? Any personal experience you have the Sukhasana? And this is I have not experienced any difference, but the yogis say that there is always one part of your body which is dominant. So if you right now exhale from your right nostril and then exhale through your left nostril. So try to do that. Right? So one would be dominant. So for me right now it is left. So left is more clearer than right. So anybody who has right dominant right now? Right nostril. Okay. So right, if the one which is dominant, right? So right now my left is dominant. So I will lift my left leg and put it on my right thigh. So the dominant one is actually lift up and put it, right? So that way you can go into Sukhasana. So try to do that. And the yogis say that when you do that, you try to balance it out. So, there are some Anulom Vilom, after doing Anulom, they say that you can actually balance it out completely by doing those Anulom Vilom postures. So if you feel your right is dominant, then you put your right leg over the top of left thigh. And same thing when you sit on Vajrasana, the other way you can do it is Vajrasana. So I will show you on Vajrasana as well. So Sukhasana is one way. When you do Vajrasana, I'm hoping you guys can see my toes. Are you able to see my toes? Okay, cool. So Vajrasana, of course, if you have knee issues, you will not be able to do Vajrasana. But those who are easily able to sit down, you'll see there is a right toe, left toe very close to each other, right? if you have your right nostril dominant, put your right toe over the top of the left toe, right? And then you can sit down Vajrasana, and then you can do your breathing exercise like this. If you, for me it is left nose, so I will put my left toes over my right toes and sit down Vajrasana, right? So it's a reminder also for you is which part of your, Ida Pingala, which part of your body is right now dominant, and depending upon the sun side or the moon side, you might have that kind of mood today, so you can utilize it, so you can be more creative or you can be more energetic that part of the day. Anyway, we will not go into those too much, but lift the leg which is more dominant, the part of the body which is more dominant, to sit down, Sukhasana, right? So Sukhasana or Vajrasana, anything is fine. Now try to keep your spine straight throughout the breathing exercise, right? Try to keep your spine straight. We always start with Kapalbhati. So Kapalbhati is not a breathing exercise. So the reason we start with Kapalbhati is Kapalbhati comes under this series of practice. It is called as Shatkriya. Shatkriya means six series of things you do, basically to cleanse your body. So for that, Jalneti, so there is, one we do it basically is you put clothing, and there is also eye related things wherein you focus on a lamp, and then the tears go off, you clear off your eyes, you clear off your nose, you clear off the abdominal, you basically kind of take out the cloth out of your mouth, you clear out your rectum. Actually that is another, it's a very personal practice. You have to do it with the assistance of a guru, so you don't try to do it with looking into YouTube and all. Jalneti I can teach you guys. Jalneti I am very much, I've been doing it for many years now. So if you want to practice Jalneti, Shatkriya practice, I can do. If you can't do any of those, Kapalbhati is the cleansing of breath, right? So cleansing of breath, you can do it without the assistance. You can just watch like that's why Kapalbhati is popularly taught as a way of Shatkriya practice. So we'll start with Kapalbhati. So the Kapalbhati is always exhaling there. Inhale happens automatically. This is the reflex part of the body. Will do the inhale for you, so you don't have to focus on inhales, right? And Jalneti helps on removing the mucus, right? So before doing Kapalbhati, so your day started, right? You got up in the morning and you try to do yoga. When you do your brush, try to take out the mucus. If you're not doing Jalneti, you just take out the mucus before doing Kapalbhati. So what we do is we exhale by nose. The days when you have cold, right? The mucus is too much, and then you don't want to mess the whole area around. You can actually exhale by the mouth as well. So that is an optional for the beginners to exhale by the mouth. It goes this way. That is exhale by the mouth. So you're not using your nostrils, but the preferred way to do Kapalbhati is exhaling through the nostrils, which is go this way. That way, right? Okay. So the first one we will do slowly, and then second one we go a little bit faster. So let's everybody do it together. Take a deep inhale, breathing, and go exhale, exhale, exhale. Go with my clap. Use your upper stomach and try to exhale as hard as possible. Exhale, 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 exhale. Exhale, 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 exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the rhythm, like I went through one rhythm, right? Your body will be accustomed to a particular rhythm. So what yogis do is they do they will take the tulsi beats, and then they basically go through 108 times and go into a particular frequency to do Kapalbhati or pranayama. The other way to do it is basically you can play Gayatri mantra or some chanting which will have a rhythm, and then you do Kapalbhati with that. Eventually you don't need assistance of anything, and then you will try to converge your Kapalbhati with the rhythm of your own body, right? So the second, then what you need to do is you need to increase that rhythm. So the frequency will be like 1, 2, 3, or maybe 1, 2, 3, whatever rhythm is there, right? The next Kapalbhati, try to go a little bit faster than that. So I started with 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that is the rhythm I just gave as a default, but you can go with your own rhythm. The second one go faster, so I will do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that, right? So you don't have to follow the same rhythm as I'm doing. Perhaps you may not be, your lungs are not set up that way. So go with your own rhythm, right? Second one we'll do faster. So take a deep inhale, breathing, and go. Exhale, 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 exhale. Use the upper stomach as much as possible when you do the exhale. Again, the focus is on the exhales only. The inhale happens automatically, right? Good. So that was Kapalbhati. So after doing Kapalbhati, now we will do pranayama breathing. So pranayama breathing is basically inhale, right? And then taking as much as air is possible. Then you basically hold your breathing and then you do exhale as much as possible. Then a little bit of holding the breathing and then you do inhale. I believe I taught you in one of the classes, but we will do here only 3 pranayama breathing, right? So let's do inhale first. Big inhale with your nose. Hold your breathing for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold your breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold your breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Last exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So eventually you may start with 5 count if you're not able to kind of get to the 10 count, but eventually that pranayama breathing should increase, right? So the pranayama breathing is Puraka. Puraka is getting all the life force inside, that is Vishnu, taking all the air inside. Then Kumbhaka is the Kumbhaka, that means holding the breathing is called pranayama. Inhale, exhale, that is normal, right? Holding the breathing, that's why the holding is so important. That holding of the breathing, Kumbhaka, is very important in pranayama practice. And then Rechaka is basically taking out the Shiva, that is emptiness. That Shiva is basically, in spiritual world, the Shiva is everything. Aham Brahmasmi, right? That's the Shiva we're talking about, not the Hindu mythology. Right? Taking everything, basically correcting yourself with the entire cosmos and universe. All right, so that is pranayama. Now, once you're done with pranayama, after that, what you can do is Anulom Vilom. So Anulom Vilom, let me check the time so that I'm not keeping you. So we have another 3-4 minutes left. So Anulom Vilom, I will go quickly. I will just demonstrate this one. So maybe in some other day we will do it. So there is a mudra, you basically hold it, right? So this is Vishnu Mudra. So these two fingers come over here. Then you use your thumbs and then little finger and the ring finger. So those. So the thumb comes into the right nostril, and then these two go into. It's kind of a shank kind of structure. It becomes. So that is the way. You must have seen Modi ji when he does. He basically keeps it this way. So then he uses this thumbs, and then he keeps his nose like that. That is another way to do it, and then he does it this way. So there are multiple ways. It's all mudra practice. So many people ritually do it with mudras, right? So the way which most of the yogis will teach doing Anulom Vilom is by this mudra. So keeping your nose on the the thumbs on the right nostril, and then the little finger and the ring finger on the left nostril. Now, the purpose of this one is basically you are inhaling from one nostril. The left nostril you start with, and then you hold that left nostril and then exhale with the right. Right? So you exhale with the right nostril. When you exhale, you need to inhale with the same nostril. Always remember, the exhale nostril has to inhale as well. So you don't alternate. So when you exhale, inhale from the same nostril. And when you inhale, you alternate. Inhale, alternate. Alternate, you exhale and then inhale with the same nostril. And then exhale. So like that, you basically alternate your left nostrils and right nostrils. So that is Anulom Vilom. If you're not able to hold the mudra, that's fine. If you are confused, if you have to exhale or inhale, that's fine. Eventually, as you practice more and more Anulom Vilom, it will help. Anulom Vilom helps in calmness of your mind. So going into meditation, if you do Anulom Vilom, it will help you to keep your mind a little bit more settled so that you can get into meditation quickly. So a lot of people practice this Anulom Vilom before doing meditation. Another reason you do Anulom Vilom is also to to relieve some of the migraine and headaches kind of things. Okay, so once you do Anulom Vilom, Bhramari is another one I like to practice, which is basically you use your thumb to close the ears. Okay, don't do it now, otherwise you will not hear me. So you use your thumbs to close the ear, then you use your what is it called?
Index finger.
Index finger to close the eye, and then you use your middle finger to touch the nose. You don't close it. Then you use your little finger and the ring finger to close the mouth, right? And then you take a deep breathing, and then you say, you just hum. So you're not hearing anything. You just hear the hum in your in your skull. So so like that. So what yogis use this to do is, yogis use Bhramari to understand how much of pranayama practice they need to do more. So if you put a stopwatch and you can hum for like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, believe it or not, people can go like minutes humming. Like exhale, you can do for long duration. So basically building up the capacity of your lungs. So that tells you how strong your pranayama practice is. If you can hum for a long time, especially the runners and swimmers, they might be able to do it a little bit longer. But if you don't run, if you don't swim, if you don't do anything, if you do pranayama practice, you will see that you will increase the capacity of your lungs and you can exhale long. So that is your Bhramari. Bhramari helps in basically, again, it sets you up really well for postures and all. It basically clear off all the, all irritation and thinking and thought process. You completely go into a zone. So once you are done with Bhramari, then you can do Udgit. And Udgit, you can actually do it after doing postures as well. So Udgit, I actually already demonstrated with you. It basically A, O, M. So A is focused on the stomach part of your body. O is on the heart part of your body. And then is on the mind part of the body. So we'll do one part so that I don't hold you longer here. So take a deep inhale, breathing. So give same amount of that breathing as you do okay. So this in itself will take like 45 minutes of your time from the day. So what you can do is you can just do Kapalbhati and do Anulom Vilom, or Kapalbhati and Udgit, Kapalbhati and something, like pick up two of the breathing and do it for 10 15 minutes, and you can call it a yoga for that day if you are going through body issues, or if you're going through travel and things like that, right? So that would be helpful.